to Deep Sleep Stories. If these stories have helped you through restless nights, please leave a review. Reviews are what help this podcast grow, reach more listeners, and stay alive. Without them, even something meaningful can slowly disappear. So if this show has brought you comfort, that small act truly helps keep it going. Now, settle in, and let's begin.
Welcome and settle in with Deep Sleep Stories, where the night is soft and unhurried, and you can let the day fade like a candle gently pinched between fingertips. You are here to rest, to loosen every knot you've been carrying, and to drift toward a place where dreams begin quietly, without effort. Tonight's tale will carry you to a Firefly lantern show where warm paper lights and living sparkles mingle under a moonlit sky. Let your body find the shape it wants to hold for sleep. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let your jaw unclench. If it feels good, take a slow breath in through your nose, as if you are sipping calm air from a cool cup, and then release it gently, letting the exhale pour out of you like water returning to a stream. Feel the weight of your hands. Feel the heaviness of your legs. Notice the steady support beneath you, holding you without asking anything in return. With each breath, imagine the day's noise growing quieter, like footsteps moving farther down a hallway until it's only a hush. In your mind's eye, the evening is arriving. The air is mild and clean, fragrant with leaf and moss and distant wildflowers. Somewhere nearby, a lantern is being lit, and its glow is not sharp or demanding, only tender, as if it's smiling. Let your thoughts slow. Let them drift. There's nowhere to go and nothing to solve. The story will take care of itself now, and you can simply float along. And so, in a quiet valley tucked between gentle hills, there lay a small village that seemed to have been placed there by kind hands. The cottages were low and round-shouldered, with thatched roofs softened by time and weather, and gardens that leaned into the paths as if trying to listen to passers-by. In the evenings, the village grew calmer than calm. Doors clicked shut with sleepy politeness. The last clink of dishes faded. Smoke curled from chimneys and thin, lazy ribbons carrying the scent of wood and tea leaves into the dimming air. Beyond the last row of cottages, a forest began. An old forest, one that held its secrets close and offered its peace generously. On a particular evening, when the sky shifted from pale blue to deeper shades, like ink spreading in water, the village moved in a gentle, expectant rhythm. It was the night of the Firefly Lantern Show, a celebration that did not arrive with trumpets or loud music, but with soft preparation and bright eyes. The villagers carried folded paper, baskets of twine, and small bundles of dried herbs. Some brought jars washed clean and left open to the air. Others carried little wooden frames, light enough to lift with ease. Children skipped along the paths, their footsteps quick and whispery, as if even their excitement had learned to be quiet. In a cottage near the edge of the village, a traveler rested before the evening's gathering. She had arrived earlier that day, following a path that wound through meadows and over a sleepy bridge where the water below murmured to itself. Her name was Mara, and she had the kind of tiredness that came from wandering long and listening deeply. There was no sadness in her face, only a softness, as if the world had smoothed her edges with wind and time. The village had welcomed her without questions, offering bread with honey, a small bowl of stew, and a place by the hearth where warmth gathered like a friendly cat. Now in the quiet before dusk, surrendered to night, Mara sat on a wooden stool and watched as her host shaped a lantern frame with practiced hands. The host was an older woman with silver hair braided down her back and eyes that seemed to hold more starlight than most nights managed. We make them light," the woman said, her voice gentle, "light enough to carry a wish, and sturdy enough to hold a glow." Mara listened, her breathing slow. The cottage smelled of dried lavender and fresh paper. A kettle hummed softly on the hearth. Outside, the first evening insects began their delicate chorus. The lantern frame was simple. Thin slats of willow curved into a rounded shape, tied neatly with twine. Over it, the woman smoothed paper, cream-colored and slightly translucent, like the skin of an onion, only kinder. She pressed the paper to the frame with a paste made from flour and water, and her hands moved patiently, never rushing. Mara's fingers itched to help, and the woman nodded, inviting her into the quiet work. Together they shaped a lantern. Mara's hands, which had held maps and straps and walking sticks, became careful, almost reverent. She let the paper settle into place as if it were a petal. She tied the twine with soft precision, and the knot held like a promise. When the lantern was finished, it rested on the table like a small sleeping moon. The paper was unpainted. It didn't need decoration, not here. The show was not about spectacle. It was about listening, about being present, about letting beauty appear without forcing it. As the last light thinned outside, the older woman opened a small wooden box and revealed a tiny candle, no bigger than a thumb, nestled among sprigs of rosemary. She held it up as if presenting a jewel. "This is for later," she said. "The lantern will have its own light and also the fireflies. They like kindness. They like stillness." Mara smiled, and the smile felt like a warm blanket sliding over her shoulders. She could already sense the calm of the evening, the way it would unfold slowly like a story told beside a hearth. Soon the village paths filled with people walking toward the meadow by the river. The meadow was a wide, open bowl of grass, ringed by trees that leaned inward protectively. The river curved along one side, its surface darkening into a mirror that held the sky's last colors. Lanterns were carried carefully, cradled against chests or balanced in baskets lined with cloth. Some were shaped like teardrops, some like small houses, some like simple spheres. All of them were pale and patient, waiting for the moment when their purpose would begin. Mara walked with her host and several others, following the gentle murmur of voices. It was the kind of gathering where conversation didn't sparkle with sharp laughter, but glowed with warm, quiet companionship. People spoke in low tones, as if they were in the presence of something that deserved respect. At the meadow's edge, a long table had been set, with mugs of herbal tea, slices of bread, and bowls of berries that glistened like tiny moons. A small fire crackled in a stone ring, more for comfort than for light. Its flames moved slowly, lifting and folding like silk in a breeze. An elder stood near the riverbank, her cloak the color of midnight. She held a small bell in her hand, and when she lifted it, the crowd naturally softened into silence, as if the sound had already asked them to be quiet. The bell chimed, soft, clear, and brief. It didn't ring out like a command. It was more like a reminder. The elder spoke without hurry. "Tonight we share light," she said. "Not loud light, not blinding light. Gentle light, the kind that guides you home." The words settled over the meadow, and the meadow held them. The trees seemed to lean in a little closer. The river's surface smoothed as if it wanted to listen too. People set their lanterns down in the grass, each one resting like a pale seed. The sky overhead deepened into velvet. Stars appeared not all at once, but slowly, as if they had to gather courage before showing themselves. Mara sat on the grass with her lantern beside her. The paper felt cool under her fingertips. She noticed the tiny details, the grain of the willow slats, the neatness of the twine, the faint scent of flower paste still lingering. Around her, children lay on their backs to watch the stars. Some adults sat with their hands around warm mugs, their faces softened by firelight. Everyone seemed to share a single mood, peaceful expectancy, like waiting for a lullaby to begin. Then from the forest, a faint shimmer appeared. At first it was so subtle it might have been imagination. Just a soft flicker among the trees, like a fire being breathed on gently. But it grew, little by little, until the forest edge looked as though someone had scattered tiny embers through the dark. Fireflies. They drifted out from the shadows like wandering thoughts, slow and unafraid. Their lights blinked softly, appearing and disappearing with a rhythm that seemed older than any song. They moved above the grass and around the people, and no one reached for them quickly. The village knew better. The fireflies were not for grabbing, they were for watching. Mara's breath deepened without her trying. She felt the simplest kind of awe, the kind that doesn't clench the heart but opens it. The elder moved among the lanterns, and others followed with small candles, like the one in the wooden box. Each lantern received a spark, lit carefully and shielded from any stray breeze. The candles' flames were so small, they seemed delicate, but the paper lanterns caught their glow and spread it softly, turning each lantern into a warm orb. When Mara's lantern was lit, the light inside it warmed the paper from within, and the lantern became a small sun cradled in the grass. It wasn't bright enough to chase away night, It simply gave night something to hold. The fireflies floated closer. Some hovered near the lanterns as if curious about these new glowing shapes that had appeared in their meadow. Their lights blinked in gentle conversation with the candle flames, and the air felt full of breathing light. Light that appeared, rested, and vanished, only to return again. A hush fell over the gathering. Not a forced hush, but a natural one. When something is this quiet, noise feels unnecessary. The elder returned to the riverbank and raised her hands. The river flowed calmly, reflecting lantern light in trembling streaks. The water's surface looked like black glass, and the lantern's reflections wavered like soft dreams. "Whenever you are ready," the elder said, "you may give your lantern to the river. Let it travel as far as it wishes. Let it carry what you don't need to hold anymore." The villagers rose slowly, lanterns in hand. They walked to the water's edge in a line that felt ceremonial but also simple, like walking to bed after a long day. Each person knelt, held their lantern over the water, and set it down with care. The lanterns floated, buoyed by small wooden bases that kept them steady. The river accepted each lantern without hurry. It did not snatch them away. It welcomed them, let them settle, and then gently began to carry them. Mara watched the first lanterns drift, their lights shimmering on the surface. Fireflies danced above them, sometimes blinking in such close timing that it seemed like the lanterns and the fireflies were speaking. When it was Mara's turn, she approached the riverbank with her lantern held close. The candle inside flickered softly, alive and warm. The paper glowed like peach-colored moonlight. She knelt by the water, and the river's coolness reached up toward her. It smelled of stones and green reeds. She could hear the quiet slip of water over shallow pebbles. Mara held the lantern above the surface for a moment, breathing in, breathing out. She didn't force a thought. She didn't try to name what she was letting go. Instead, she simply allowed the feeling of release to be there, like a hand opening. Then she set the lantern on the water. It floated steady and calm. The candle flame inside it leaned briefly, then straightened, protected by the lantern's paper walls. The lantern drifted away from Mara's hands, and she remained kneeling, watching as it joined the others. The river carried the lanterns in a slow procession. They moved around a bend where the water narrowed and then widened again. The lantern lights stretched across the surface like a glowing path, a road made of warmth. The meadow grew quieter still. People sat again, watching. Some sipped tea. Some leaned against each other. Children's heads rested in laps. The fire crackled softly, speaking the language of cozy spaces and safe nights. Mara sat beside her host, and they watched the lanterns travel. The older woman's face was peaceful, her eyes reflecting points of light. "This show," Mara whispered, "it feels like the river is holding everyone's worries." The woman nodded. "The river is kind," she said. And so are the fireflies. They remind us that light can be small and still matter. As the lanterns drifted farther, the fireflies seemed to grow more numerous. They rose and fell in gentle arcs, blinking in patterns that felt almost like music. Some hovered over the river, their lights mirrored below. The air became a tapestry of floating brightness woven from candle glow and living sparks. And then in the distance, beyond the bend of the river, something subtle changed. The lanterns began to gather, not in a rushed way, not as if pulled by a strong current, but as if the river had a favorite place and was guiding them there. The lanterns drifted toward a wide, calm pool where the water slowed and the banks curved inward like open arms. From the meadow, the pool was visible as a dark oval framed by willow trees. The lanterns collected there, their lights clustering softly, making the pool glow as if it held a secret sky. The elder walked to a small wooden platform by the river, a simple dock that reached out a little over the water. She stood there, still as a statue, and raised her hands once more. The movement was gentle, and it invited attention rather than demanding it. The villagers grew silent again. The elder spoke in a tone that barely disturbed the air. "Watch with soft eyes," she said. "Let the light come to you." Mara felt those words like a warm cloth over her thoughts. Watch with soft eyes. She let her gaze relax, not gripping any one point, but taking in the whole scene. River, lanterns, fireflies, trees, stars. In the calm pool, the lantern's glow brightened, not because the flames grew larger, but because the lanterns sat close together, sharing their light. The reflections on the water became thicker, richer, like melted gold. Then the fireflies changed their dance. They rose above the pool in a wide spiral, blinking in a pattern that seemed almost deliberate. Their lights pulsed in gentle waves, moving up and outward as if drawing a shape in the air. The villagers didn't speak. They simply watched. The fireflies' spiral widened. More fireflies joined, coming from the forest, from the reeds, from places unseen. Their tiny lights formed a soft, floating crown above the lantern pool. The effect was not flashy, it was dreamy, like watching a constellation rearrange itself. It felt like the night itself was breathing, exhaling light. Mara's heart slowed further. She realized she was holding her hands loosely in her lap, palms open. She felt as if her whole body had become part of the meadow, resting, grounded, calm. Above the pool, the firefly's spiral gently shifted into something like a lantern of its own, made of living light. It was not a solid shape, more a suggestion, but it was there. A glowing dome that shimmered and pulsed, rising and falling like a slow tide. The elder lowered her hands. The fireflies continued their pattern for a while, as if finishing a thought, and then gradually loosened the shape, drifting back into their usual wandering dance. A quiet sigh moved through the crowd, not disappointment, but something like relief. The relief of seeing that beauty can exist without needing to be held tightly. The lanterns, still gathered in the pool, rocked gently. Their candle flames continued to glow steady and warm. The river's current whispered along the edges, patient and unbothered. Mara's host leaned toward her. "Sometimes," she whispered, "the fireflies do that when the night is very still. They make a lantern of their own, as if to say they belong too." Mara nodded. She didn't feel the need to speak. The scene was already speaking in a language beyond words. Time moved slowly in the meadow. People rose now and then to stretch, to refill tea, to wrap a shawl more snugly around shoulders. But everything remained gentle, as if even the smallest movement had been softened by the night's calm. The elder began a quiet song, barely more than a hum, and others joined in. The melody was simple, repeating like ripples. It didn't pull attention. It floated through the air and settled wherever it pleased. Mara listened, her eyes on the lantern pool. The fireflies blinked along the riverbanks, and occasionally one drifted near her, its light a tiny breath in the dark. It hovered, blinked, and moved on, as if satisfied. As the song continued, the lanterns began to separate again, the river slowly taking them one by one and guiding them away from the pool. They drifted downstream, their glow growing smaller with distance, turning into warm dots against the dark water. Mara watched them go, and with each lantern that drifted away, she felt something inside her loosen. Not dramatically, not with a sudden burst, more like a ribbon untying itself in slow motion. The forest beyond the river seemed less mysterious now, not because it was fully known, but because it felt friendly. The trees stood like guardians. The leaves whispered in a language that promised rest. A breeze moved through the meadow, mild and sweet. It carried the scent of willow and river water. It brushed across faces like a cool hand. Mara's eyelids grew heavier. She could still see the lantern's glow in the distance, but it began to feel like a lullaby for her eyes. The elder's humming softened and slowed. People began to gather their things, folding blankets, lifting sleeping children carefully. No one hurried. The night had taught them how to move with grace. Mara rose with her host and walked back along the path to the cottage. The village looked different at night, as if it had become a quieter version of itself. Windows glowed with warm light. The air was calm. Somewhere a cat padded across a porch and disappeared into shadow. As they walked, fireflies blinked along the hedges, scattered like gentle punctuation. They were less clustered now, more like individual thoughts drifting through the night. At the cottage, the hearth was still warm. The kettle had been refilled, and the older woman poured a final cup of tea for herself, though she did not insist that Mara drink. Everything was an invitation, never a demand. Mara sat by the hearth for a moment, letting the warmth settle into her bones. The older woman placed a small lantern, unlit, on the windowsill. It was a simple thing, made of paper and willow. "For you," she said. "Not for traveling, for remembering. Sometimes we need a little gentle light, even in our minds." Mara touched the lantern's paper, feeling its softness. She smiled with quiet gratitude, and the older woman returned the smile like a shared secret. Then the cottage grew even quieter, as if it were curling inward to sleep. Mara was shown a small room with a bed dressed in clean linens that smelled faintly of sun-dried cloth. A blanket waited, thick and comforting. The window was cracked just enough to let in cool night air. Mara lay down and pulled the blanket over herself. The bed held her kindly. Outside, the night chorus continued. Distant crickets, the soft shush of leaves, the faint murmur of the river that carried lanterns toward unseen places. In her mind, the lantern show replayed itself in slow, soothing images. The meadow, the gathering, the first fireflies emerging like tiny sparks from the forest's dark, the lanterns glowing from within, warm and patient, the river taking them gently, as if it had always been waiting to carry something tender. She imagined the lantern pool again, the place where lights gathered and glowed together. She imagined the fireflies forming that living lantern above the water, an airy dome of breathing light. It felt like a blessing made of quiet. And as Mara's thoughts softened, the village itself seemed to drift toward sleep. Cottages settled, chimney smoke thinned. The paths emptied. The meadow became a dark, peaceful bowl under the stars. Down by the river, lanterns continued their journey. Their lights grew dimmer as candle flames burned low, but they did not vanish abruptly. They faded with patience. They left behind only the memory of warmth. The fireflies continued their gentle blinking along the banks, in the grasses, near the roots of trees. Their lights were small but steady, reminding the world that even the tiniest glow can make the dark feel friendly. In the cottage, Mara's breathing slowed. Her shoulders relaxed further into the bed. Her hands rested easily, fingers uncurling as if they had finally remembered they did not need to hold anything. Her mind wandered without effort, drifting between wakefulness and dream like a leaf floating on a calm pond. Thoughts rose and sank. Images softened at the edges. Outside, a breeze moved through the leaves again, quieter now, as if the night was whispering, "Sleep, rest, let go." The river kept flowing, endlessly kind. The meadow rested. The lantern pool reflected starlight, and the last of the drifting lanterns became a distant glow, then a faint spark, then only darkness cradling the water. The fireflies blinked on, slow and gentle in their timeless rhythm. In the warmth of the cottage, Mara's breath became deeper and deeper, as if she were sinking into a soft cloud. The lantern on the windowsill, unlit, seemed to hold a memory of glow anyway, a quiet promise that light could always return when needed. Now the story slows with you. The night is wide. The air is cool and safe. The river is singing a hush. And you can follow that hush down into sleep, letting each breath carry you farther from the day and closer to rest. Your thoughts can be like fireflies, blinking softly, drifting without purpose, becoming quieter, slower, more distant. Your body can be like a lantern on calm water, held up easily, carried gently, glowing warm from within. Nothing to do, nothing to fix, only the steady, soothing drift. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.